Good morning, everyone. It's May 8th. It's a beautiful day for a board meeting. Our first item this morning is adoption of resolutions. We have three: the White Flint Fire Station, the Good Hope WQP, and the Shiloh Church Baptist Culvert Repairs Water Quality Plan. Do I have a motion for approval of these three resolutions?
I'll move to approve the resolutions.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 5-0.
Excuse me.
The next item is record plats. We have two this morning. Subdivision plat number 2, 2023-0970, Travilla Meadows. And the second is subdivision plat number 2, 2025-0280, Bradley Hills Grove. Both staff is recommending approval. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the record plats.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 5-0. The next item is the briefing on the older adult population and housing of older adults in Montgomery County, where the planning staff is recommending giving a briefing to the planning board. This morning, we have James Lee and Ebenezer Amengwa to present. Welcome.
Good morning, members of the Planning Board. So for the record, I am James Lee, forecaster and demographic research specialist in the Research and Strategic Projects Division. So today I have with me Ebenezer, or Eben Amengwa, our graduate research assistant from University of Maryland, who has been with us this past academic year and is also presenting for the first time before the Planning Board. So before I hand this briefing off to him, I would like to begin with some introductory remarks and background information. So we are giving this briefing in honor of Older Americans Month, which is observed during the month of May. It was first designated by President John F. Kennedy as Senior Citizens Month in 1963 to honor the country's aging population. Members of the Planning Board may remember the Research Division has given past briefings on our other demographic profiles, with the most recent ones on the Asian Pacific Islander population and people with disabilities. So our just released older adult population profile covers people ages 65 and over who live in Montgomery County and has demographic information similar to what is in the other profiles. And so much of the briefing will be on these demographic characteristics. One section that's unique to this specific profile is a special section on the housing inventory serving older adults. The Research Division has a study published in 2018 called Meeting the Housing Needs of Older Adults in Montgomery County that, among other goals, quantified the supply of housing serving older adults at that time. So in the past, Eben has conducted extensive research to update this housing inventory and update our numbers, which are part of the older adult population profile will be presented in the latter half of the briefing. We will also touch on the subset of housing facilities added since the 2018 study. And with that, I will go ahead and hand it off to him.
Good morning, and for the record, my name is Ebenezer Amengwa. As James said, I'm a graduate assistant with the Research and Strategic Project Division, and this morning I'll be presenting on the older adult profile. This is a continuation of the Research Division's Population Profile Series, and in honor of the Older Americans Month during the month of May. The older adult population profile uses data from the U.S. Census Bureau 2023 American Community Survey 1 year estimate. Data was taken in a point in time for the most recent, which is the 2023. And older adults are defined as people who are 65 years and over. For the first item, population growth. Older adult population has experienced long-term growth that outpaced the county population since 1970 at 6%, all the way to 2023 by 18%. Comparing that to the national population in 2023, 18% of population in the US were also identified as older adults. Age distribution by older adults by sex. In 2023, older adult male made up a smaller percentage of the older adult population with increasing age, as males were 47% of individuals aged 65 to 69 but only 34% of persons aged 85 and over. Older adult cohort have more women due to women overall high life expectancy. Racial distribution. Older adults are more likely to be white, with 59% of identifying as white alone, compared to 42% of the county population. In terms of ethnicity, 11% of older residents identified as Hispanic or Latino, which is lower than the 21% of the county. Educational attainment. Educational attainment was similar between older adults and the county, with 60% of older adults and 61% of the county holding bachelor's degree or higher. However, 68% of older adult men had at least a bachelor's degree, which is more higher than the female of 53% or women. Household income distribution among older adults. A larger percentage of the older adults, which is 25%, household earns less than $50,000, compared to only 90% of the county-wide. Looking at the larger income bracket, older adults were more underrepresented, with 24% as against 30% of the county earning more than $200,000 or more. Older adults have lower income because most of them are retired, with 28% in the labor force, 78% receiving Social Security income, and 61% had retirement income. Looking at the median household income also, older adults earn lesser than the county overall. Poverty. Poverty rate for both older adults and the county stood at 7%, which is lesser than 11% for the nation in whole. But looking at the gender disparities, females had a poverty rate of 9%, higher than that of the male at 6%. Among older adults, 13% of Hispanic and 9% of Black lived in poverty, compared to only 6% of non-Hispanic whites. Looking at the older adults, all of them experienced higher poverty rate than the county, except for the Black population, which is lesser than the county. This shows that older residents may be more at risk at poverty when time goes on. Marital status by sex. Older adult men were more likely to be married compared to older adult women, which is 75 by 49 against the county. Similar trend was also seen in the county level, with 55% of men and 49% of women married. Also, older adult women were more likely to be widowed than men, which is 26 against 7%. Disparity by disability by type. Over 45,000 or 25% of older adults have at least one disability. Among this group, 54% reported 2 or more disabilities. Majority of the older adults with disability identified ambulatory difficulty, which is 62% out of the population, followed by 47% of individuals who had difficulty performing functions associated with living alone. Living arrangements. Older adults are more likely to live with their spouse, which is 55% of them. But when compared to the county, you see that a larger percentage of the older adults live alone as compared to the county population. Also, 63% of grandparents aged 60 and over who live with their grandchildren were women, which has similar percentages with the county level, also standing at 63%. Housing tenure. Older adults more likely to be homeowners, as 80% of them own their own homes, compared to the county of 64%. But only 20% older adult households were renters, below the county figures of 36%. Housing cost burden. Older adult renters more likely to be cost burden than the county overall, with 66% spending 30% or more of their income on rent compared to the county level, standing at 51%. But for homeowners, 25% of older adults were burdened by housing costs, just slightly higher than the county overall figures of 22%. For median monthly costs, older adults spent slightly lesser than the county overall. Housing type, more than half of older adult population, which is 55%, live in single-family detached units, compared to 48% of household countrywide. Also, older adult households were more likely or less likely than older households to live in single-family homes or smaller multi-family structures. Looking at larger multi-family structures, the percentages of older adults and the county population were similar.
Can I ask you a question here?
Okay.
This is really surprising to me because I thought that older adults usually prefer not to be in single family because it's a lot of work. And if they go to senior home, those are not single. Usually there are multi-story. So I thought that this would be actually reversed. Is the trend changing or is it, because, we are seeing so many senior homes right now is being built. And if it stays that, who's going to fill those senior homes?
Let me answer this. So as you recall, we have, a lot of seniors, older adults in this county. So a lot of them actually choose to age at home. A lot of them choose to live in homes that they may have bought, many years past. And they may choose to actually, age in place in those places. So we don't have a, breakout in terms of who decides, that they want to age in their homes versus who wants to go to, a facility, for example, nursing homes or assisted living. So we don't have really good data on that. But yes, that's a very good point that, we do have a lot of seniors, a lot of older adults who decide that they want to age in place and live in their own homes. So that's part of the story right here.
I know that's totally understandable because that's what my preference is also. And I know that a lot of my friends, they think exactly the same. I'm just wondering that so many senior homes is being built right now. We have them, they come in front of us, okay? And do you know that if those are being filled, I'm sure that the market, they believe that the market exists. And, I know that a lot of people is cost burden. Those are not really cheap to live in those senior homes, but it's very comfortable. So, it's sort of contradiction in here to see that how these things work. The market thinks that it does have a market, but according to this, it doesn't have such a big market. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll briefly respond to that. We actually have some slides coming up that talks about the
Okay.
older adult housing stock that is part of the inventory update that Evan has done for us in the past year.
Yes.
And we haven't dived into the issue of matching supply versus demand. I think that's a key piece of your question. One of the things that I think we may want to look at in the future is to see, what that supply and demand, match might look like.
And I mean, we have to be clear on the numbers too, that we've approved since we've been here. I mean, less than 20, I think, I'm trying to count the number, and if it was more than 2,000, I'd be shocked, units overall for all the senior housing that we've approved since I've been here in a county of over 1 million people with an aging population. Like, we're not building enough senior housing to keep up with demand on the low end, much less, like where are the 55% of seniors that live in a home that, there's 2,000 square feet, they don't need it, where are they gonna go? I mean, for all the homes that we've approved, we're talking a couple thousand units in a county of over 1 million. That's not enough. We're not building
Well,
enough. Where are they
is-
gonna go?
There is already a lot, so I do not know what are the numbers. That's what I'm asking.
I mean,
the market.
the 55-plus community in Clarksburg was filled before it was even constructed. Like, it was filled before they even actually opened the doors on any of those buildings, the one that's on 29. The demand is high enough that they're building, we're just not building enough.
Yeah, that's what my question is. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess at the end, you're going to talk about at least what housing and whatever the supply there and you have, but also I think planning is going to do this housing preference and this others. Oh, yeah, and so and that's hopefully in the budget for next year, and then that will help us address, do we have the right type of senior housing for the needs of this, the right price points and things like that. But I think that's
Okay,
coming.
so we have something coming, housing preference. What is that? Could you, I saw it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, so we have in our budget request for FY26 funding for a housing needs assessment and preferences survey. And the needs assessment would be an update of what we did in 2020 in the lead up to Thrive. It would be a reset of that to take a look at our housing supply and how it meets up with our housing demands. And we look at it from a number of different perspectives: affordability, different price ranges, and for different income levels, different types of housing, and different for different stages of life. So do we have a sufficient amount of housing to meet the demand that we have at different stages of life, but also just then recognizing, or do we have people who, we might have, 55% of those, those 55% may be people who want to live in an apartment, but aren't finding the senior housing with the amenities and services that they need right now. The other thing I would point out is, as I age, I find 65 doesn't feel that old anymore. And so, just keep in mind that the older adult population that we're talking about here is 65 and up. And so there's a good number of those that are 65 that are still perfectly happy and capable and fine with living in a single-family home with multiple floors and, having to mow the lawn and do all of that too still. So.
That is really good. Yeah, I really looking forward to get those information that we have, because I have sort of a feeling that what is young people want, what are the middle age, what are the older adults, but to see that how the whole county is having preference. And then I think it would be nice that if there is something in Maryland, I do not know if they have something that shows what are the preferences in Maryland or the counties that are next to us, because if we don't have enough and they have enough, people are going to move there. So we need to make sure that we don't lose the competition to our neighbors that they are around. That would be helpful. Thanks.
For the record, I'll Artie and Jason covered the points I was going to make, and this is Caroline McCarthy, Division Chief. Related with housing preference, particularly for people, if you think 80 plus, everyone prefers to stay in their home, and then it's a question of when people are not able to do anymore. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. So this takes us into the next session, which talks about the older adult housing inventory that I did. So this was to update the 2018 studies that James mentioned earlier on. Data for the 2018 studies was done in 2017. And in 2024, I did these studies to be able to update the GIS layer with the current existing housing for older adults in the county. And 6 categories of housing were used based off from the 2018 studies housing categories, which were independent living, active adult ownership, assisted living, nursing home, continual care, retirement community, and group homes. So this summarizes the current existing housing for older adults in the county. So currently in 2024, Montgomery County had 357 residential facilities, providing a capacity of little over 27,400 living units. Group homes accounted for the largest number of facilities, but provided the least number of units. And also active adult home ownership with only 4 facilities provided more than 6,300 units. Leisure World of Maryland alone accounted for 90% of those 6,300 units. 50 independent living facilities also provided nearly 7,000 residential units for older adults who are able to live on their own without any support. And over 14,100 facilities that provide assisted care living to independents who also to older adults who also requires assisted living.
Could you explain living units versus facilities?
So facilities refers to the facility that is in the provided, and the unit refers to the quantity, the quality, the capacity that it provides. So one unit, one facility can have like 10 or 15 capacity in terms of unit to residents. So, okay. You can do it.
If it may also help to clarify. So facilities, and living units, those are sort of like catch-all terms for the facilities. Facilities are like the building, I guess you could call it, the building or the neighborhood that these are located in. And then the living units refer to, it could be either, depending on the type of facility, it could be an actual unit, like an apartment unit, for example, or it could be referring to beds in the case of like a nursing home or an assisted facility, assisted living facility. So I don't know if that clarifies the.
No. So if we have 357 facilities, they have, inside them, they have 27,417 living units.
Okay.
So they're not separate.
I'll use Leisure World as an example. So Leisure World is in the active adult home ownership category. So Leisure World is one facility, but then within Leisure World, there's, I believe, over 5,000 plus living units, which in this case could be a single family home, or it could be an apartment of some sort. So that's just one example. But
So a single family home is one unit and an apartment is one unit.
correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Correct.
But that doesn't include the single-family units that older adults choose to stay in. That is not included in that.
Correct.
Thank you.
So moving forward, this table kind of highlights the new addition of facility that has been added since the 2017 studies was done. That's from 2018 to 2014. And currently, we have a total of 83 total units that has been added since the prior studies, providing a total capacity of nearly 5,000 units, with independent living providing the highest number of capacity with almost 2,000 units. Interestingly, nursing home did not add any facility within this time period. Also, the 2016 studies outlined that there were 16 projects that were in the development pipeline, and this inventory also established that 13 of them has been developed and currently operational, 2 of them in the pipeline still, and 1 hasn't been developed nor in the pipeline. This is showing that the county is contributing its quota in developing older adult facilities. This is a map representing the spatial distribution of facilities types. So this first map talks about independent living and active adult ownership. These are facilities that serve individuals who are able to live on their own without any assistance. So the triangle represents independent living facilities, showing where they are located in the county. So this shows the existence of all current independent active adult independent living facilities, with the orange one representing facilities that has been added since the prior studies in 2017. And 14 of them are shown in the previous table, with 5 of them concentrated in Silver Spring. Active adult home ownership also has 4 represented by the star, with the orange one representing the new one that has been added. All 3 concentrated in Clarksburg.
So we have some of these senior living that they're one facility, but they have the combination of all the 3. They have independent, they have, assisted, and they have the memory care. How do you show that?
That is shown in the next slide.
Shown what?
So we have a continuous care retirement community, which has make provision for assisted living, independent living, and nursing home, all in the same facility. So that is called aging in place. Seniors who want to get into a facility and live there for long and age would have moved into a different facility and having access to all those kind of, what do you call it, services rendered to them in the same facility without relocating to a different place. That is the facility type that we were kind of referring to, a particular place that you have all those services rendered to you.
Commissioner Peterwing, let me also clarify as well. So this slide is only showing the facilities that are defined as independent living and active adult home ownership. So these are active adult home ownership is Leisure World and 3 of the neighborhoods, 55+ neighborhoods in Clarksburg, and then the independent living facilities are they're rental facilities where they're age restricted but not providing any care itself. So in the previous slide we had like very short definitions of those types of facilities. The next slide is actually going to address the what's called the assisted living category, the nursing home category, and the continuing care retirement community category. So those categories, those 3 categories, they have different gradations of care. You can call it that. We tried our best to categorize facilities according to that particular categorization method.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying that there are some facilities that have all the 3 or 4 different kind of care.
Yeah,
In
and
them.
those are called CCRCs. So they're counted in the CCRC category. They're called continuing care retirement communities.
Okay, so you put all of those in a separate category?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We
Thank you.
didn't want to put the full definition into our slides because that would be too much information. The much more fuller definition plus an explanation is actually from the 2018 study.
Thank you.
So to kind of address your question, there's those facilities that provide all those 3 services in one place is captured in this map, which is a CCRC, fully known as the Continuous Care Retirement Community. And with this, we have 3 of them that are currently new ones that have been added, represented by the orange square, with 3 of them being added now. But in total in existence, we have 12 of them in the county, but 3 which are new, which has been added since the 2017 studies. And also with the existing assisted living represented by the circle, the blue ones represent the facilities that were in operation during the prior studies, and the orange one represents the new ones that has been added, with 10 of them which has been added now, 4 in Bethesda and 3 also found in Roxville. Like I said earlier, our nursing home had no new facilities that has been added. And the last one is group homes. So group home is also a facility that also provides some level of assistance, but in a smaller capacity. And likewise, like the previous one, the blue one also represents those facilities that were in existence during the prior studies, and the orange are the ones that has been added, with 27 of them concentrated in Silver Spring and 6 in Rossville. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. That's a great presentation. I appreciate it. And also, it's really, really important to bring to the board and to the community at large the demographics of the senior population and how it's growing, and so that we can make sure that we meet the needs of the seniors. So hopefully we get the funding to do the follow-up studies for both, not only for seniors, but all others, the housing preference and the housing needs study. So, we can match, better match the needs. So thank you so much. One question about the group homes. Is there any particular, are there one or two or three or owners that groups that own the group homes, or is just, it's not consolidated under any particular ownership? Yeah. I'm just out of curiosity.
I think that's actually a very difficult question to answer. So we actually did not dive into that aspect of it. We just
Yeah, that's just out of curiosity. No worries.
I think there must be a little bit of that from a business perspective, but yeah, it was a level of detail that we didn't go into.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I really appreciate what you did, and thank you for the presentation. Any other comments or questions from the board? So thank you again. So we're going to take a 1-minute break and switch over to our next item, which is the Director's Roundtable, where Director Sartori will present his planning report. Thank you. Good morning. We're on item number 4, the roundtable discussion, where our planning director, Jason Sartori, will present this item and his esteemed guests this morning.
Yes. Good morning, Chair Harris and members of the board. For the record, Jason Sartori, Planning Director. And so I'm going to primarily be turning, a good portion of today's briefing to other folks from the planning team. We're going to talk a little bit about give an update on the Community Planning Academy. I will then give a quick update on where we are with the FY26 budget. And then I'm going to turn it over to our folks from Historic Preservation to talk about the Cecil House Dendrochronology Report, which you may recall the Cecil House was a log cabin that the board delisted from our locational atlas earlier this year. And as part of that action, there was a requirement that this report or study be conducted. And so the team is here to kind of follow up on that so that you guys can see, get some closure on that one. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Bridget Breuer, our Deputy Director, who is online.
Thanks, Jason. Good morning, members of the Planning Board. I'm Bridget Breuer, Deputy Director of Administration, and I'm so pleased to be joined by my colleagues as well as our consultant who's online from the Hatcher Group, Victoria Kane. We're going to present an update on the Community Planning Academy. We've had a lot of momentum since we last presented to you this past February, and we're going to share some of the updates over the last few months, including some impressive engagement stats, and talk about next steps before our summer launch. And I also wanted to recognize Khalid Afzal, who's been instrumental in this project. Couldn't do it without Khalid, so thank you. And apologies that I'm at home. I have my second to last ULI Leadership Institute training, and it's in Bethesda, and so Jason said I could do this from home, so apologies I'm not there in person, but we'll jump right in. So just as a reminder, the Community Planning Academy is an online and on-demand based program that we've been developing in partnership with the Department of Permitting Services, Department of Transportation, and the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. We've also been consulting with our sister department, Prince George's Planning, with their Neighborhood Planning Academy. They're about 4 cycles ahead of us, so it's been really helpful to talk to them about lessons learned. And so really the goal of the program is to make planning more accessible and provide residents with the knowledge and tools to participate in steering Montgomery County's future. In short, we want to be able to provide a 101 level of understanding about the planning process to the average resident. So just a little bit more, this was established in 2023, this recommendation to develop a planning academy from the Development Review Process Work Group. We received funding from the County Council for this fiscal year. And as I mentioned, we've been working with our partners to create the content that we hope will be resonating with residents as we work towards our first cohort launch this summer. We'll be focusing on master planning, zoning, the development review process, and other priority planning subjects. And really the goal here is to increase engagement and participation from historically underrepresented communities in the planning process. Next. And so as I mentioned, some of the topics, I just wanted you to see the modules and how we're breaking this out. So although the program will be mainly online based, we will work in some touch points for in-person opportunities. So the first meeting will take place at our Wheaton headquarters this summer, and then the first cohort will launch right into introduction to planning, master planning, zoning, the development review process up until it leaves the planning board. Module 5 is where DPS takes over with permitting and construction. We will have an in-person field trip. We're still working through the logistics of that, of what that could look like, and make it easy for the participants to actually visit a site, kind of going from plans to reality. We'll then keep going with Module 6 with environment and climate change, Module 7 participating in the planning process, and then putting it all together with Module 8, followed up by a graduation. We'll be sure to let you know about all of those in-person dates because we want to make sure that this is special, that it's a big deal, that the planning board, is a part of this as well. I wanted to also mention that we will be receiving feedback from the first cohort throughout the whole process. That's the beauty of this model. We're really happy about how we're structuring it because instead of just going live full county-wide and maybe missing some things, we're doing this beta cohort this summer with 50 participants. We will receive feedback throughout the whole process, see what's hitting the mark, where we missed some things, then make those tweaks before we go live with the full county launch this fall. Next. So we wanted to share a quick promotional video we've been using to raise awareness about the Academy, and we've been using it for recruitment. So I'm going to ask my friend Isaac Asari to roll the videotape, if you could, from where you sit, Isaac. Great, thank you. So that's just a short promotional video we've been using on social media. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
That wasn't me. I think that was the next video.
It's going to the next video. Excuse me. Okay, so that video, we can go back to the deck. So that video has really been resonating with folks. I want to thank Meg Irving and the communications team for pulling that together. If we could go to the next slide, Jason. So as of this morning, we have 603 interest form signups from across the county because of our things like that video and some of the promotional campaigns we've been doing. And I just wanted to show you on the next slide, it's a visualization of how these interest forms are hitting across the county. As you can see, pretty much every zip code has expressed interest in joining the first cohort. I'll just note that this map reflects the application count from several days ago when we built it, and that 603 number is from this morning. But we're pretty pleased with this. Thanks to the GIS team, Chris McGovern's team, for pulling this together just so we could have a visualization to make sure we're not missing anyone. And so this is how the distribution is spread across the county right now.
Hey, Bridget, are they required
Yes.
to be a county resident to participate? Maybe there are a consultant that working for a consulting firm and they want to, or student from University of Maryland, but they don't live in county.
You know, Vice Chair Pedoween, that's a great question. We haven't considered that. I'm going to make a note because right now our sort of constraints are that you need to be 18 and older, and we want you to be a resident of the county for this first cohort. But when we go live and we open it up, there will be more flexibility. So thank you for raising that.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I can see a lot of a student or consultant that they have Montgomery County job that may be interested to learn about the county process.
We've also received interest from, I would say, newer employees or not with a lot of experience employees in the county council's office, Parks Department, interns from our own departments wanted to take that course. And some of them said, yes, I don't live here, or I'm not this and this. We told them you'll be able to take the course once we open it, but there's a lot of interest at every level.
Yeah, and it even may be, if I was working in Montgomery County and some of the counties that they do a very good job, they open this training, I would like to take it to see how I can improve ours. So it may be that you get interest from other jurisdictions that they may be interested to improve theirs or share their opinion. So I think it's a good, yeah.
Thank you so much for raising that. We can go to the next slide. I'm going to turn it over to our consultant, Victoria Kane, who can walk through some of the performance highlights of our digital advertising campaign. Victoria?
Thanks so much, Bridget. So to support the planning and partners who are doing the great on-the-ground organic outreach, we've implemented some integrated digital advertising campaigns just to really continue to move the needle and make sure that we're getting in front of as many of our residents as possible. We incorporated Meta, programmatic display, and Nextdoor ads. So we're really trying to reach residents across all platforms where they engage, incorporating English, Spanish, and Chinese translated versions of the advertisements, since we'll be offering the course to our learners in those 3 languages at this time. We focused our ads on sort of a county-wide approach to make sure that we were really reaching every zip code, every resident across the county. We also targeted some of our ads very specifically to those zip codes identified on the CEI as the disproportionately disadvantaged communities in an effort to really reach those equitable outreach goals. As you can see here, for this first phase of the campaign, the ads performed extremely well. Over 800,000 total impressions, 10,463 total clicks to the website. And a great metric I like to call out here is just the click-through rate, specifically on the Spanish and Chinese ads. A benchmark for this platform was 0.68%, and we're seeing a 2.01% average click-through rate, which really indicates that the ads are really resonating with folks. They're engaging, they're interested, they're clicking to the website to learn more. And same with this sort of cost per click measure here at the bottom. We're really below benchmark, which again means our ads are being delivered, that people like them, that they are continuing to resonate. So really great performance on this phase one piece. You can go to the next slide.
Excuse me,
Thanks,
while you're
Jason.
moving forward, what's the definition of a total impression?
So total impressions are any eyeballs that reach the ads. So there is many times it is served up to audiences across all of the platforms. So this combines sort of the Meta, the programmatic display, and the Nextdoor platforms. It's any time that someone is seeing the ad.
Okay, thank you.
How do you measure
Sure.
that? How do you measure it? Because I have a lot of
Sure.
things come on my Facebook. I just don't even look at it. I have learned to ignore.
Sure. Yeah, I can absolutely find some more. That our digital team sort of runs all of the specific metrics and how all of those pieces are measured. We work closely with our vendors who provide sort of an algorithm that calculates all of these different numbers. So I can certainly provide some more background on the sort of ins and outs of how those are calculated. Thanks for those questions. So we're in the sort of second phase of our digital advertising, focusing really on, again, still continuing with the county-wide approach. We like to use a phased approach to marketing so that we sort of have the information from the beginning of the campaign and see what we can learn there and continue to apply that going forward. So thanks to the GIS team with the map, we were able to really identify those zip codes where we were seeing lower response rates, so that we could therefore sort of plug that into our campaign and make sure that some of our ads were really focused specifically on engaging in those zip codes to drive enrollment. We have a good today and tomorrow until this phase of the campaign ends, again, continuing to see really outstanding performance across the board. And I think this paid advertising component was just a really nice supplement to the really important hard work that's been done on the ground and the organic outreach and engagement opportunities that Bridget will share next. Thanks.
Thanks, Victoria.
Can I ask a question? On the platforms, you have Meta, and then you have programmatic display. What is a programmatic display?
Great question. So programmatic display are the ads that you see sort of across all websites on the internet. So they're the ones that are in the sidebar, across the top, and sort of the landscape of different web pages. They're scattered all across, as opposed to the Meta that's really focused on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. So as Victoria mentioned, we have been hitting the ground with getting the word out about the Planning Academy. We presented, thank you to Khalid for all his work on this, to each of the 5 regional service center citizen advisory boards. We received a ton of feedback from them on just ideas, some helpful critiques, and also received a lot of interest from those citizen advisory boards. Khalid was at the nonprofit Montgomery event, Tools to Thrive 2025 Expo. We were also just at Sligo Creek Fest. Thank you, Artie, for the support. And also, as I mentioned, we're continuing to coordinate with our partners. I'll also mention that we have another group of staff who have been, we call them the course strategists, and they have really been working their lists. It's master planning leads, it's engagement specialists who are reaching out to folks in the community, getting the word out. And so I think that has really helped as well in terms of hitting the ground with the promotion of this Planning Academy. Next, so a little bit more about the recruitment and enrollment. The goal is to have 50 residents for the first cohort with at least 50% from underrepresented communities to make sure we have meaningful representation. We will be providing a monetary incentive for that cohort group because they will literally be working for us and helping us to refine the curriculum. As I mentioned, we're going to be surveying and getting feedback in real time on how different modules are hitting, if it's too difficult, if it's too easy. We'll have a learning check at the end of each of the modules. We'll be able to test performance on that and see how that's going. And then the goal also, as you know, we have 600 plus folks who want to be a part of this first cohort. We can only take 50. So we're going to make sure that we capitalize on that interest and convert those folks to the full launch. And so I also wanted to mention, this was an idea from Director Sartori. We will have a set aside group of a few staff members and a few folks from council staff who will be auditing the course for us, because we want to make sure that we don't have any blind spots. And they won't be a part of the first cohort in terms of, that group of, it's really meant to be folks who have never touched our planning process, but we also understand they don't know what they don't know, and we want to make sure that we're hitting the mark with every topic, and so we're going to be moving in that direction as well. That's a new update since we last came in front of the board. Next slide. So as I mentioned, and as Victoria mentioned, our submission period closes tomorrow, and we'll make sure, then we'll begin the vetting process of picking those 50 residents. We will make sure that we are prioritizing enrollment of residents who represent disproportionately disadvantaged communities for the CEI. We'll make sure that those who aren't selected are feeling a part of the process. We're so appreciative that they want to be a part of it, and make sure that they are kept in the loop with emails and our dedicated newsletter so they know when and how to apply for the actual fall launch when we go countywide.
Bridget, can I ask you a question
yes,
here?
Please, yes.
I know probably you had explained it, but I need some refresher.
Sure.
In regard to picking the applicants, I think it is important that we think that what is the main objective of this planning academy? Is it just to educate people, or is it to get future, participants in our planning process, people that actually come in different areas of planning to give us feedback or participate or better member? I don't know what are your criteria in selection for that. I think we should go way beyond just training. We are spending a lot of time and effort and funding, so we want to have future participants, that people that actually come and participate in the process with us. That's what I think.
Vice Chair Pedwin, you called it out. You hit the target. It's to educate and provide folks with baseline knowledge. But one of our metrics of success is to see, are we getting more people signing up to testify? Are we getting more folks showing up at our charrettes or our visioning sessions for master plans? That really is the goal. And that's the beauty of this model, because we can open it up to as many people as possible. We don't have to limit it to 30 people at a time like some other models do, which is fine and great, but we just felt as though, and really Director Sartori, this was a priority for him, I know, was to open it up to as many people as possible, remove as many barriers to participation, to welcome as many people into the process as possible.
And so we can pause here and to see if you have any additional questions about the Community Planning Academy before we move on, just so that we can then let Bridget get off to her ULI training. I did want to say, just to underscore what Bridget said here. First of all, I think it's unbelievable we have 603 people who have expressed an interest in participating in this beta cohort. If you think about it, we can only take 50 people. That's an acceptance rate that's, more stringent than some of the most exclusive colleges in the country. And that's unfortunate in some ways because we want this to be something that's accessible and available to as many people as possible. So, the fact is that with this group, we're giving them a constrained time period to work on this and to review it and to give us feedback. And this is going to be really helpful for us to make sure that we put out the best tool possible. Once we open it up in the fall, I hope that all 500 plus people that don't get to participate in the beta cohort but have expressed an interest in this, that they do sign up and that they do participate. And because then it will be open to everyone. And the other thing too that this shows is just the power of the marketing campaign that we've done and the engagement effort that we've undertaken to be able to target specific zip codes where we have seen that people haven't typically participated in our processes, where we've put it out in multiple languages and on multiple platforms, really getting the exposure for this program has been really impressive and is kind of another one of those examples of what we need to be doing with everything we're doing, employing these tactics and these methods to pull more people into our process.
I do have one question. When the training or academy begins, what days of the week will it be held? And is it going to be convenient for people who have regular workaday lives to attend the academy?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Bartley. I can answer that. For the first cohort that we're preparing for, as Director Sartori mentioned, they have the summer to complete the program. So from June until August, kind of on their own time, but also constrained with the bookends of the summer months. So it's all online based. In completing the program, there will be opportunities. We're going to program in meet the planner office hours, if you will. So if there's questions and if participants want to actually talk and engage with planning staff, we're going to make that available. That field trip we mentioned, we're going to make sure it's as convenient as possible for those 50 participants. And then once we launch countywide, people have as long as they want to finish the program. It's on demand. It's on their own time. So it is the most convenient. They can do it on their phone. We'll have multiple languages available. So I hope that answers your question on that piece.
If it is on demand, then you don't have any specific limit. Anybody can participate, and it's going to be allowed for people just take it as long as they can, the timing. And then I guess somehow you would probably check to make sure that they have finished to give them a certificate. Is that how it is?
Exactly, Vice Chair Pedawin, we're going to have to program maybe 2 graduations a year or something like that based on where people are in the process. And this platform we're going to be using will be able to see all the back end data and the metrics to see how people are performing. So hopefully that goes well. I'll just give you a little preview for the budget item in a little bit in front of the board. We are asking to convert some lap savings to use as end of year funding to help with the fall launch, because we know we're going to need to do a little bit more based on the overwhelming interest that we've received. So that includes redoing some of the modules, some of the production that we need to get into, more advertising to go countywide for the full launch. So I just wanted to mention that as we're in front of you with this item.
While you're doing that, I think it would be good to give some incentive funding for the fall also. I do not know. I think that incentive, even though it may be small, it could be a gift, it could be whatever, it would encourage people because they can keep something for themselves. So something to think about.
Thank you for raising that. You are right on target with everything that we're thinking for that. We'd like to purchase, a nice pin and for sure a certificate, perhaps a nice notebook. We want to make it special, not just that it's some online thing. We want to add that VIP sort of special piece to it. So thank you for raising that.
And people will be able to, they'll get an acknowledgement that they've completed this, kind of like a certification of this that they could put on their LinkedIn profile or other things too. And it's, I think the flexibility that this offers, also, we will know how far people have progressed through the program. So, and we may have touch points with staff on particular topics, and we'll invite the people who have completed, the appropriate amount of modules to participate in those, or, field trips might be accessible to people who've, gotten to a certain point, but we'll continually monitor that to understand how many people we have in different stages of. And people might decide, I'm only going to do the first 3 modules and then I'm done. I don't need to get the certificate. I don't need to complete it all. I get what I need out of these first 3. Other people, we hope, will go the whole way through all of and they can do it on their own time. If it takes them 2 years, that's fine. If they do it all in one night, okay.
They really love planning.
Right.
Director Sartori and team, this is wonderful. We can't wait for it to get started. It's just very clear, almost the detail and thoughts you guys have put into this, and so I really, really appreciate that. And at the new added touch of having some auditors that know the process, sort of go along with it and see how it's working. So thank you so much. We look forward to you coming back and telling us it started and how it's progressing. Thank you so much.
Great.
Sure.
Thank you, Bridget, Khalid, and Victoria for helping out with that. And so now I'll give a quick update on where we are. We talked a little bit about budget, so might as well fill you in on what's happened here. So this is just kind of a highlight of where we've been with our budget and what's ahead. So on March 14th, the county executive released his recommended operating budget, which you'll recall basically resulted in a 2.5% increase in funding for the planning department. Then on April 3rd, we came to you all and you approved a set of non-recommended reductions that would get us to that county executive recommended funding level. So our request had been for 5.7% increase, so we had to find 3.2% of our request to bring it down to the county executive's level. On April 23rd, the chair, Director Figueredo, and I, along with Bill Spencer from CAS, all participated in a committee work session, PHP, Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee budget work session, in which the committee essentially supported for the planning department our reduced budget at that county executive level, the 2.5%. And then they placed 2 items on the reconciliation list. And in a second, I'll talk specifically about those. Earlier this week, on Monday, we went to the full council where they had a budget work session, and they expressed general support for the PHP committee's recommendations. They did not take a vote because we have stuff on the reconciliation list that everything will be considered under the reconciliation process. So earlier, right before our session, the council had a pretty robust conversation about revenue component of the budget and voted unanimously not to support a property tax increase, which had been part of the county executive's original operating budget. The county executive had also subsequently, rescinded that element of his budget and requested instead, because the state made some changes that allows county governments to increase raise the maximum amount of the income tax percentage that a county can charge from 3.2% to 3.3%. Montgomery County has been at 3.2%, but now the county could go up to 3.3%. And they can make it retroactive to January 1st. But the state said, if you are going to do that, you need to let us know by May 15th. Now, because it wasn't part of the original proposal, they have to have it had to be the concept had to be introduced, through a bill, and then there's a public hearing that had to be set because it wasn't part of the original budget public hearing. So that public hearing is taking place on the 13th, so next Tuesday, and the council will have to decide whether or not to increase the income taxes to basically help us achieve the balanced budget that they desire by Thursday. So I will say, they didn't take any vote, but the general sentiment seemed to be not in favor of raising the income taxes retroactive to January 1st. in part because there was also a limit. You could do it back to January 1st, but you couldn't make it progressive in any way. It had to apply to everyone. And so we will see what the council does next week. The whole point of kind of explaining that is that if they don't raise property taxes and they don't raise income taxes, there's additional funding that they're going, or savings that they're going to have to find from the county executive's budget. Yeah. And we're not really sure where that's going to come from, but we will get more insight over the course of the next 2 weeks. The expectation is that by the week of the 19th, the 20th, 21st, or 22nd, that the council will have to take final action on the operating budget, and we'll then see where we stand. I will note that today is also a big day for the commission in that the county council is meeting with the Prince George's County Council in a bi-county meeting in which they discuss and make a decision on the bi-county budgets, so WSSC and the CIS portion of our budget. Once that's done, that can't be touched. So we'll know today where the CIS budget stands, but we won't know for a couple of weeks exactly where we stand on ours.
Yeah. Can I ask you a quick clarifying question on the budget, the tax increase, the income tax? Is the 15th notification deadline for if it's retroactive or if it's adopted at all? That's what I wasn't clear on when I was looking at the...
Well, I would imagine, and I'm not sure exactly, I think that they would need to basically take action to adopt that change and notify the state by the 15th.
By the 15th, whether or not they make it retroactive.
If it's retroactive. If they decide to do something for calendar year 26.
Okay.
So not effective until next January 1st. They don't have to notify them. I think they said July 1st.
Okay.
So they have a little bit more time. And with that, they could choose, I mean, they don't have that much more time, but they could choose to do something that might be more progressive in nature as opposed to applying to everyone.
Gotcha. So they only have to, it's only if they apply it this year, either retroactively or proactively. That's what's my curiosity.
The Thursday deadline.
The 15th is necessary one over there. All right, thank you.
So what you see on the screen now is our budget request, the requested increase that shows you the 5.7% that I mentioned. And so I'm just going to highlight where we are with the, and I say council-supported budget, but again, to be clear, the council hasn't actually taken a vote. They expressed general support for what the PHP committee had decided. And so really what you see in these columns are what PHP supported. And just to kind of walk through it, the first thing that you'll see a discrepancy in there's a cut of about a third in our master plan support funding. This was part of our non-recommended reduction that we sent along. You know, we're fine if that's the case. We're happy to get our master plan support funding in this new ongoing kind of position as opposed to every year having our master plans on the reconciliation list. The next thing you'll see is a reduction in the placemaking coordinator position. So essentially this does support the position, but it has a 4-month lapse in hiring, so a delay in hiring, which is also was what we had included in our non-recommended reductions. You'll then see the housing needs assessment. So this was talked about earlier. What we had offered was a $100,000 reduction there because we believe we can do a lot of the needs assessment, that matching up of supply and demand in the future in-house. It'll just take us a little bit longer. It's the preferences survey, which we want to get a statistically valid survey out throughout the county that we need the support for, and so we asked for the continued funding for that component, and so that was supported as well. And then the last two things here you'll see is zeroed out, the retail market analysis and the shaping corridor focused growth. The retail market analysis, you'll see this again later today. We've identified funding that we can use in savings from this year to move that project forward. The shaping corridor focused growth is something that we intend to incorporate into our Georgia Avenue corridor master plan, which is underway now, and really kind of building off of the lessons learned from University Boulevard, and that we're continuing to learn from University Boulevard. So I mentioned that the committee supported adding two things to the reconciliation list. The first one was restoring some of the funding for the housing needs assessment, an additional $50,000 there to help support that effort and potentially get some of the work that we would do, we could offload to a consultant to help us out. But then to offset the increased cost of that, knowing how tight the budget is this year, they also placed on the reconciliation list an additional 2-month delay in hiring the placemaking coordinator. So essentially forcing a 6-month delay in hiring. And as we've talked in the past, that means that that's additional money that we need to identify in FY27 for annualization of that if we get that. So I was in this odd position on Monday advocating to the council to say, we'd like you to support the $50,000 on the reconciliation list, but there's something on the reconciliation list that I don't want you to support. But if they do pass everything on the reconciliation list, you'll see there are increases just slightly above what the county executive had recommended at 2.6%.
Sorry if you already mentioned this, but the master plan support line, which got reduced by about a third, it looks like.
Yeah.
How do we already have in mind? So I know that we're seeing this sort of a pot of money to support a variety of efforts. Do we know yet how this will affect our plans for the coming year?
Sure. So we had 2 master plans that we had identified to begin in FY26, and obviously that's a 12-month period. We could begin them at any point in that, depending on our staffing availability and funding availability. The 2 were Burtonsville and Kensington. And so the likelihood is in not getting the full $300,000, we probably will push one of those off, whether it means that they start at the end of FY26 or we push it off to FY27 is still to be determined. But it's possible some of our existing current plans that we're embarking on may need some of that funding. And that's kind of the beauty of having this, is that when we are proposing a master plan years in advance, we have no clue really how much it's going to cost to conduct that master plan. Once we start getting into it, we start doing existing conditions, we have conversations with the community, we realize that certain analyses might be needed that we weren't expecting, and that might have some costs, or that we need to do some additional outreach in a different way that has an additional cost. We have to do more door-to-door, and we don't have the staffing to do that, so we bring others in to help us out with that. And so this gives us a little bit of flexibility to say, as we go through the master plan process, if we identify the need, we have some funding to be able to put towards that. So it means not getting as much as we were asking for, that we may have to delay some of those others. Okay, yes. So the one other thing I wanted to show you, because we've talked a lot about staffing, and this is something that I continue to emphasize with the council members and their staff, and I think this is a tune that we need to keep singing, not just for this budget cycle. But if you take a look and you set staffing levels from 2009 to 1 to give you a relative sense of where staffing is today compared to 2009, right as we started to feel the impact of the Great Recession. This is county government staffing. And so during the recession, staffing levels had fallen to 89% of what they had been just for county government in 2009. Today, based on the county executive's recommended budget, it's at 112.6. I think today it's 111 and change. But based on the county executive's recommendation, 112.6. Here's our budget, our staffing levels. So you can see we took a larger, in terms of the share of our staffing, a larger hit during the recession. We fell to 79% of our 2009 levels. And over the last 15 years, we've received some funding for some positions that had been unfunded, but we really didn't gain any new positions until this fiscal year. But you can see, based on if we get that one placemaker position, in FY26, we'll be sitting at 84.6% of where we were, staffing-wise, in 2009. And so, I emphasize this because we are still operating under, a constrained staffing condition from the Great Recession. And there's a lot more that we're being expected to do. And so we're going to continue to highlight this because, and I admitted this is not the county executives and multiple, because we've had multiple county executives. It's not just them, it's not the council, it's part of it is on us in not asking for positions to restore our positions or asking for positions when we've had additional responsibilities placed on us. And so I hope that as we go forward, we kind of change that dynamic a little bit and provide a little bit of relief to our staff and continue to provide the excellent services to the county that we're expected to provide. So with that, I'm now going to hand it over. We're running a little long here, so I'm going to hand it over to Rebecca and John to talk about the Cecil House.
Thank you, Director Sartori. Good morning, members of the board. Again, this is Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Supervisor for the record. I'm joined by John Lieberts, Cultural Resources Planner in our office. Just wanted to give a brief update for the board. If you recall, on February 20th of this year, the Planning Board voted to remove the Wilson H. Cecil House from the Locational Atlas and Index of Historic Sites with a condition for the removal that the owner undertake a dendrochronology report to date this log cabin to the best of his ability. So the owner contracted with the Oxford Tree Ring Laboratory, a recognized specialist in this field. The results of that report were distributed to the board, and I can just go over some very brief highlights from that. So the folks at the Oxford Tree Ring Lab, they took 8 core samples from the logs at the house. 2 log timbers from the first floor were sampled and 6 log timbers from the second floor. All of the timbers sampled from the building were white oak. The results of the sampling showed there were several precise dates that were taken from those core samples. So the precise dates of felling they were able to get from some of them ranged from the spring of 1844 to the winter of 1859 and 1860. And this spread of dates suggests, I'm reading from the report, suggests that the earlier date, the felling of the spring of 1844, that timber was cut down at an earlier point, maybe used at another building on site and then repurposed for this building, but that the date of construction was shortly after the winter of 1859-1860, which corresponds with what staff had theorized that the date of construction may have been, looking at the available records that we had from the deeds, tax records, other research. So in that sense, we feel that this report was a success. We were able to precisely date the building. This gives us a really good baseline going forward. Each of these data points, looking at log cabin construction in particular, is very helpful for our office. When you're looking at architectural styles of buildings, there's often a very pretty clear beginning date for a style or a method of construction. But older styles and older methods of construction can persist many, many decades past when you think you might look to see it. People looking at a building like this even 40, 50 years ago might have thought, oh, this is a pioneer cabin, this is a Revolutionary War, this is an 18th century something, just because it is a log cabin. But this data, and when you use the data with other more precise records that we have recently about other log cabins, shows that this older type of construction can persist well into the 19th century. There were high style houses that were being built in the county at this time with beautiful detailing, Greek Revival houses. So you can have those being built at the same time you're having log cabins being built. So we thank the board for asking for this condition as part of delisting the property, and John and I are here to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board members?
I have a comment. I really enjoyed receiving and reading that report, and I especially like the fact that you all go the extra mile with regards to investigation and research to make sure that the decisions that you all make and you present to us to finalize are well vetted. And it was a particular point of curiosity to me because I did not know of dendrochronology. And when I read it and then I compared it to the facts that you all presented to accurately mark the date and come to your conclusions. I was very well impressed, and I'm thankful for your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Bartley.
I don't know if this is typically, I read through parts of the report. I don't know if this is typically involved with it, but do they have a sense of where the trees came from initially? Or is that possible to even kind of ascertain through this kind of analysis?
It's a great question. I do not know, to tell you the truth. Reading through, I know as much reading through the report probably as you do. You know, we're architectural historians, so I know very little about the science behind it. What is interesting is looking at what they use for the baseline data in the report. They talk about over 1,000 oak samples within the mid-Atlantic. So for any scientific study that you're using, you have to have your baseline data set so that if you get an outlier, you know that it's an outlier and you're not depending on that as your date. So they compared it to, as I said, over 1,000 white oak samples within the mid-Atlantic. If you're asking if we know was it felled on were the trees cut down from this property, the report doesn't say that, I don't think. I don't know if we would know.
You know, while the report doesn't say it, that would be the traditional way you would build a log house, right? You'd have tree stands on your property, and it's, you know, the easiest and most economic way is that the trees are probably from, you know, the land that they owned.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious if there was, you know, if there was any insight into, like, if they could tell, if it would sort of verify that kind of practice, or if maybe it would kind of reveal insights into some sort of medium distance, like, trade with logs in the area. But anyway, I was just personally curious. Thanks. It's a really interesting report, so thanks for getting it done.
Thank you.
I appreciate how much, you know, that this did reinforce the findings that the staff had, but also just to know that there are these tools out there at our disposal, and, you know, the disposal of applicants to be able to get data and information that help all of us make decisions. So appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Thank you for closing the loop. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Are you, anything else, Director? Okay, so thank you for always for your detailed reports, and thank you for staff for participating. And we will just take a 2-minute break and start with item number 6, Ancient Oak Administrative Subdivision Plan and Final Forest Conservation Plan. Thank you. Good morning. We're on item number 6, Ancient Oak Administrative Subdivision Plan, Final Forest Conservation Plan, where staff is recommending approval with conditions. This morning, we have Mariah Claiborne with the Planning Department presenting this item. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board, and thank you for having me. For the record, I am Mariah Claiborne, Planner 2 for Up County Division, lead reviewer for Ancient Oak Administrative Subdivision Plan number 620-240220, and Final Forest Conservation Plan number F20241000. Staff recommends approval with conditions for both the Administrative Subdivision Plan and Final Forest Conservation Plan for the subdivision of the existing parcel. The subdivision will create 2 lots for 1 new and 1 existing detached dwelling unit. This application has to be acted on by the Planning Board because it proposes a flag lot, which is subject to the requirements of Chapter 50. The applicant has fulfilled all required noticing obligations, including signposting and mailing of the notice of application on July 17, 2024. Staff has mailed the notice of public hearing and has received community correspondence from a resident fronting the adjacent street, with concerns of possible increased vehicular traffic along Darnestown Road, which is a state highway, and has inquired about road improvements. Staff did reach out to the resident by email addressing all concerns. The subject property is south of Darnestown Road, west of Wild Oak Drive, north of Chestnut Oak Drive, northwest of Malachi Christian Montessori School and Darnestown Elementary School. The subject property lies within the Potomac River M.O. County watershed. The property is zoned R200, which has a minimum lot size requirement of 20,000 square foot per buildable lot. And the property is located within the 2002 Potomac Subregion Master Plan. Surrounding properties to the east, south, and west feature single-family dwellings in the RC, RE1, RE2, and R200 zones. The subject property is identified as parcel 900, consisting of 2.26 acres with frontage on Darnestown Road. The property is currently developed with an existing single-family detached dwelling unit with a side loading garage. The property contains no forest, specimen, or other significant trees. The applicant is proposing to subdivide parcel 900 into 2 lots. Proposed lot 40 in the front of the property is proposing a new single-family detached unit. The proposed flag lot 39 will maintain the existing single-family unit. Both lots are proposing side-loaded garages that will be accessed by a shared driveway off of Darnestown Road. The applicant must provide dedications along Darnestown Road. The applicant will pay a fee in lieu of construction of a 6-foot wide sidewalk with a 15-foot wide street buffer along Darnestown Road and provide a 10-foot wide public utility easement. Consistent with the flag lot requirements under Section 50, the applicant has demonstrated and provided separation of at least 80 feet between the building envelope of the proposed flag lot 39 and building envelope of lot 40, as shown by the yellow arrow on the image. All other setbacks are minimum required in the R200 zone. The Final Forest Conservation Plan shows no existing forest or other sensitive environmental features on the property, which results in a forestation requirement of 0.33 acres, both within and outside of the same watershed or priority area. The applicant proposes to satisfy this requirement by purchasing the appropriate acreage in an off-site forest bank or by providing a fee in lieu payment to the Forest Conservation Fund if no forest banks are available. As stated, the subject property is within the 2002 Potomac Subregion Master Plan area within the Darnestown Triangle as a geographical area formed by MD28, which is Darnestown Road, Turkey Road, and Jones Road. While the master plan does not specifically identify the subject property, the application maintains the existing R200 zoning and rural residential character desired by the master plan. Staff finds that the application meets all the required findings of approval. It conforms to the 2002 Potomac Subregion Master Plan. The lots comply with all provisions of the subdivision regulation and zoning ordinance. It meets all requirements of the R200 zone with established BRLs per the flag lot provisions. It meets all public facilities are adequate. It complies with Chapter 19 approved stormwater management concept and also complies with Chapter 22A forest conservation. Staff recommends approval of the administrative subdivision plan number 62024-0220 and final forest conservation plan number F2024-1000 with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We have one person, Ms. Kit Lee, to provide some testimony this morning. Ms. Lee, are you online?
Yeah, actually, this is Tom. You can call me Tom too. I have concern about that. Actually, around my neighbors, they all have big yards, right? So if this one gets approved, and guess what? A lot of people are going to follow. And that means going to increase even more population, right? And as you can see, the Route 28, you can't even expand the road. There's only one way, there's one lane, right? It's already a lot of traffic already. My concern is in the future, if everybody's going to follow that same step to keep building more houses on their own current yard, and how are you going to guarantee to improve those traffic, right? This is my concern, because around the neighborhood, everybody's got big yards. So everybody's going to follow the same step, right? If they have the money to do it. And this is my concern,
Thank you. Mr. Lee, have you finished your testimony, sir?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's important to get residents' thoughts on this. The staff, can you address Mr. Lee's comments about traffic? I know, because I know that the staff has done this according to the rules for approving a subdivision, but I'd like the staff to discuss the transportation aspects. Okay.
Yes, for the record, this is Justin Ivan with Up County Transportation. This is a very valid concern, and we understand that residents might have concerns on the traffic that future developments might generate on the area. I will mention that as part of our review, we do take into consideration and we ask the applicants to provide traffic studies and analysis to know how many trips proposed developments will generate as this development that is coming. For this development specifically, we did our due diligence and we were able to find that the trip generation for this development will be very minimum, specifically one trip in the AM peak hours and then one trip in the PM peak hours. And then another thing is we want the residents to know that they can rest assured that upon redevelopment of this area, we will make our due diligence and we will make sure to ask for the specific transportation analysis so we can make sure that the street network is adequate for future developments and that this road does not get congested, and also we will make sure to comply with the applicable master plans and guidelines to make sure that the street network is adequate and robust to support any future application.
Yeah, thank you for your analysis and your comments here. So I have one question, just out of curiosity. How is the building restriction line calculated? It seems like is that a theoretical, based on what the minimum setbacks? I mean, just out of curiosity, how are those lines developed?
No, that's a specific code requirement. I believe you're referring to the rear one, I imagine, that was just on the screen a few seconds ago.
I think when they had the initial one, they showed that the properties were minimum 80 feet.
Yeah, do you see?
Yeah, those lines. How are those blue lines, just out of curiosity, how are those developed? Just based on setback,
Correct, yeah, so you see the section there, 54.3CB, we're applying that minimum setback as defined in the code. So it is a code requirement established in each subdivision.
Right, so you're saying even though the house isn't near that boundary, but
Yes, there's a minimum
theoretically, a house
space,
could
yes.
be in that, and so therefore, you have to plan for this
Yeah.
worst-case theoretical, and that's why you
Correct.
should.
Yeah,
Great.
this was a specific amendment to the subdivision regulations that addressed a minimum spacing requirement that was not previously required, but this establishes that minimum spacing so that you don't have houses immediately adjacent to one another, which was one of the deficiencies of the previous version of the code.
Okay, thank you. And last question is, I see that a noise analysis was required. Is that because it was standard method, or I'm just out of every
I can defer
application
it
has
to
that?
environmental section, Doug.
Hey, for the record, I'm Doug Johnson, Up County Environmental Planner. The noise analysis is triggered by two things. Either it's the road classification, and it's also the average daily trips on that road specified by SHA. So when it reaches a certain threshold, a noise analysis is required. One was submitted by Hush Acoustics. However, the noise threshold for the house fell below the threshold for any mitigation. So that's why you won't see any condition in here for noise mitigation, because the noise level was below the stated threshold in the noise guidelines.
Yeah, you're great. Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. So I have no other questions or any or
Can I
comments.
just quick follow-up just on that, on the noise? So did the one extra trip a day trigger the noise? Like, what was it that triggered the?
No, I think
noise
Doug
requirement?
was saying the classification of the road and the daily vehicular trips.
The classification of the road.
Generated the need for an analysis.
Okay.
We wanted to measure what was the noise projecting onto this property, and then if mitigation was required, then there would have been conditions that would have addressed that and mitigated
It's the noise
that.
from the road, and then it's classification of the road to the. Okay.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Great. Any other comments or questions from?
I do have a question about the purchase of forest credit. Is that a condition precedent, or is it a condition after the fact? Meaning, will they have to make those purchases before they break ground or after?
Trying to
So
fully understand
there
the
was,
question.
There was part of the presentation, there was purchase of forest bank credits, a forest station to be taken off-site forest bank or making free fee in lieu payments.
Yes,
Is that prior to groundbreaking or after?
That'll be, the forest conservation worksheet, when you run all the numbers, it revealed that this particular project has a 0.33 acre afforestation requirement. So in this case, since there's no need to put it on the property, it'd be inconvenient, to be honest. They are going to take it to an off-site forest bank and purchase the appropriate credits, or they will pay a fee in lieu into the Forest Conservation Fund. That will be done prior to the pre-construction meeting.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, staff, for presenting and answering our questions. And do I have a motion for approval of the? I will do two because it's a forest conservation plan. I have a motion for approval of the administrative subdivision plan number 6/2024-0220 with staff conditions.
Yeah, move to approve the administrative subdivision plan with conditions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, 5-0. Do I have a motion for approval of the final forest conservation plan F 2024-1000 that staff is recommending approval?
Move to approve the forest conservation plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you so much. And we'll just take a 1-minute break to switch over to our last 3 items of the day, and we'll be right back. Good morning. The next 3 items are concerning budget transfers from Montgomery Parks, Montgomery Planning, and the Montgomery Commissioner's Office. The first is item number 7, budget transfer request fiscal year 2025 operating budget Montgomery Parks, where the Parks Department is recommending approval of the transfer for a fiscal year 2025 budget adjustment for the Department of Parks. And this morning we have Kate Bentley, and we also have Suchi Vera presenting for the parks, so welcome. Oh, I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you, Chair. We are here in front of you to request the board's approval for some transfer of personnel, unspent personnel funds for fiscal year '25 to some non-personnel expenses that the Parks Department has. And I'm going to hand it over to Kate so she can go through each item before we seek the board's approval.
Good morning. For the record, Kate Bentley, Budget Manager for the Department of Parks. I'm here today requesting your approval for a budget adjustment for our department. Although our department has made considerable progress in filling our vacant positions, we still have vacancies. Staff are actively working to fill these vacant positions, and I'm pleased to report that our park fund vacancy rate is now 10.9%, which is just 0.9% above our budgeted lapse. We are coming to you now to take advantage of the resulting personnel savings to cover other unfunded budgetary needs for our department. So I'll briefly go through a summary of our requests, and our memo provides further detail. Our first request is to reallocate $50,000 for the required inspection of the Lake Needwood and Lake Frank dam risers. This inspection is required by the state and must be performed every 5 years. The request had been included in our FY26 proposed budget as a one-time cost, so we are prepaying this cost to reduce our ask for FY26. Next, we have a transfer of $40,000 for consulting services to support the active Montgomery team with report development and analysis. This team had requested a program enhancement to fill this need in FY26. However, because it seems unlikely that that funding will be approved, we would like to add funding to the existing contract to fill this need for the time being. Next is a transfer of $50,000 for brand standards and guidelines for interpretive signs. This is an ongoing effort and this additional funding will expand the scope of the process of updating the park's sign manual to include diverse and valuable subjects like critical information, environmental information, such as stormwater management information, as well as essential historical context, such as local indigenous history. Our next request is a transfer of $35,000 for licenses for the Park Development Division to pilot the use of a unified project management system called eBuilder. This pilot will allow the team to evaluate this system to centralize CIP project documentation and project tracking, which should result in more consistent and efficient system. This software is currently utilized by the sister division in Prince George's Parks and Recreation, and we hope that we will see the same benefits that they've seen.
That's really nice. I'm interested. Maybe after it's working, you could show us how it
Yes,
works.
absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to do that. Next, we have a transfer of $68,385 for sod, supplies, and temporary fencing for a spring renovation of the athletic field at Hillendale Local Park due to unsafe playing conditions. You'll remember that this field was renovated in the last few years, but due to unpermitted play, which is allowed at this field, as well as over 1,000 hours of permitted play this past season, this remediation is required to make the field safe for play. So this work will get started immediately after approval. Next up, we have a transfer of $85,000 to purchase a vehicle alignment machine for the fleet maintenance team. The department does not currently have an alignment machine, and therefore we must contract out this required maintenance task for all parks vehicles. Alignments are typically required annually, but are needed more often for park police vehicles and vehicles required to go off-road. Performing alignments in-house will save the department both money and vehicle downtime. Next, we have a transfer of $170,578 to purchase a wheel loader for the green waste recycling program. The wheel loader is used to haul logs and different types of materials for the program. This funding will replace the current loader, which has reached end of useful life, and to reduce the ongoing maintenance and repair costs for that piece of equipment. Our next request is for a transfer of $108,500 to purchase a replacement for a 2015 F450 for the Little Bennett Maintenance Yard. The current truck has reached end of useful life, and the inflated cost of vehicles has reduced the number of replacements that the department is able to acquire through the Capital Equipment ISF. Next, we have a transfer of $100,000 to purchase a skid steer for the Park Planning and Stewardship Division's Environmental Resources crew. The skid steer will allow crew to better manage non-native invasive species, including Bradford pear and bamboo, as well as assist with the movement of large deliveries with tree planting, snow removal, and other maintenance needs. Next, we have a transfer of $60,753 to continue to upgrade the security cameras at various facilities. The department has many older security cameras installed in various park locations. These older cameras lack recent modern technology improvements, and we are no longer able to secure replacement parts. This funding will be used to purchase cameras and supplies for our alarm shop staff to continue the process of modernizing our security inventory. The department has been cobbling together money through year-end funding as well as coordinating replacements through capital projects and along with the enterprise budget. So we also hope to establish a small amount of ongoing funding through our FY26 budget request to continue the replacements and move into the next phase of replacements when they're necessary. Next, we have a transfer of $84,784 for laptops and docking stations for Park Police. The laptop costs required for Park Police are significantly higher than laptops for regular office use. Again, here we also hope to establish a small base budget through our FY26 request so that the division can continue to replace officers' existing out-of-date equipment as well as replace the equipment when it's required in the next few years.
Can you explain why their laptops are more expensive than like an in-office laptop?
So they have to be a little bit tougher. Generally, they're out on patrol, they're in the vehicles. They also have to have more stringent security requirements because of being out of the office or out of a secure environment. So that is part of the reason. Also, we have recently upgraded the CAD system, so we need to make sure that they can both do security upgrades for their laptops and then also have it work seamlessly with that system. And lastly, we have a transfer of $240,000 for a 3-year Cisco enterprise agreement. We have several Cisco tools we already use within the IT environment that we renew separately. Some examples of these tools are the internet filtering tool, which blocks malicious sites, the policy tool, which strengthens our cyber posture by allowing us to put security policies in place for devices that are connecting to our Wi-Fi or to our networks. And then also firewalls, which block malicious things from coming into our environment and also blocks our equipment from connecting to malicious sites. So rather than paying separately, Cisco has allowed us to consolidate the tools together with one renewal date and to bundle and get ahead of any tariff-related increases that we're not sure what that's going to look like. So this joint agreement is shared with planning and results in significant cost savings to the department over time, but the agreement requires Parks and Planning to finance the full cost of the contract in the first year. The total of these transfers is $1,100,000. At this time, the Planning Board's approval of these transfers is requested unless you have any other questions for me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bentley, for your very detailed explanations of why this money is needed and where and what it's used for. So, do I have questions or comments from the board members? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the requested transfers totaling $1,100,000?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the budget transfer for FY25.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. So we'll go immediately into our next item, which is item number 8, budget transfer, fiscal year 25 operating budget from Montgomery Planning. And this morning, we have Karen Warnick and Amber Ford representing the Planning Department. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. My name is Karen Warnick, for the record. I'm the Management Services Chief for Montgomery Planning. With me is Amber Ford, our Budget Manager for Montgomery Planning. We're here today asking your approval to adjust the Planning Department's FY25 budget. We're projecting to have an estimated savings in personnel of $650,000. While it's a combination of two things. Our vacancy rate is actually fairly low. We generally We would need to have about 8 or 9 positions vacant to meet our vacancy rate, and our vacancy rate's generally running around 11 or 12. So we're in the right range. But what we also experienced this year was a number of positions that were filled at higher levels. Those people are at higher salary levels. Those people left, and we hired them at a lower salary level. And also the people that we hired coincidentally just happened to not have as much benefits associated with their, maybe they didn't have a family that they were paying for. So we have a bit more savings than we had anticipated early on. And we're requesting to reallocate those savings to better position the department for the upcoming FY26 budget year and to meet some other departmental needs. What we're requesting is to, oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. The first request is for $90,000 for a retail market analysis. You may remember that this analysis was requested in the FY25 proposed budget, and that we used this as, we presented it as a budget reduction to the Planning Board and to the Council to meet the County Executive's budget recommendation. So we would like to go ahead with this project using our year-end funding. The second is $60,000 for Community Planning Academy's launch support. The Community Planning Academy has, we're having the first cohort this summer. We had 50 spaces. We had 500 applicants. So we're thrilled and excited about the process of, the prospect of this, but we need additional funds to incorporate learner feedback into course improvements, promote and recruit participants countywide, support in-person sessions to deepen engagement, to maintain ongoing evaluation and refinement, and to continue to monitor the process. And this is not included in our FY26 budget. We have $16,000 included in the budget for ongoing maintenance, but nothing to promote and to improve the process itself. The third request is for $150,000 for master plan transportation adequacy metrics. This funding will be used to evaluate the existing transportation adequacy metrics and consider whether new metrics are needed to inform the master plan recommendations that are aligned with Thrive, including equity, economic development, and environmental resilience. Number 4 is a communications preference survey. The Planning Department seeks to understand the individuals and communities we serve so that we can communicate and engage with them more transparently and equitably. We have $50,000 in our budget to do small targeted surveys. We want to do one that's county-wide to get a baseline, and that's going to cost $140,000, so we'll use $50,000 that we currently have plus this additional $90,000. Number 5 is a graduate assistant. Currently, we have funding for 3 graduate assistants from the University of Maryland's Urban Studies and Planning program in the School of Architecture, Planning, and Preservation. They work on a variety of programs throughout the school year for us. We would like to get one additional graduate student, and that's $28,000 for that. Number 6, we would like to replace one vehicle, $39,000. This vehicle was purchased in 2013 and it exceeded its life cycle replacement, so we would like to replace that. Number 7, $50,000 for translation services. Our need for community engagement has dramatically increased as we seek to reach out and engage the varied underserved and underheard populations in the county. And so this funding would augment our services for translation for public meetings, graphic designs, video, and master plan materials. Number 8 is postage. As our community engagement increases, so does the demand for mailings and notices. So this $30,000 request would augment our funding for department-wide postage. Number 9, and the last one, is the audiovisual streaming and ADA closed captioning, $113,000. We use the contract services for all planning board meetings, full commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Development Review, and other special department and commission events per the Open Meetings Act and ADA requirements. And this would cover the cost of services for the next year.
Great, thank you also for your detailed explanations of the amount that are to be transferred and why. So thank you so much. Do we have any questions or comments from the board members? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the Planning Department's fiscal year operating budget request transfers of $650,000?
Yeah. Move to approve the budget request transfers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 5-0. And then we'll go to our last budget transfer, item number 10, from the Montgomery Commissioner's Office. And we have Alana Branda, Chief of Staff, to present this item.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, Alana Branda. So we have a very small transfer request from the Commissioner's Office. We have $3,929.69 that we do not anticipate using in our personnel services category. Similar to what you've heard before, a change of benefits people requested and is driving where that funds are coming from. And so we would like to move that into non-personnel services, and we would like to use that to expand our contract that we have with our vendor to provide communication support to the Commissioner's Office. This supplements the communication support that we do receive from the Planning and Parks Department. The funds on that contract have been almost 100% depleted, so this would expand that. We also do have some additional savings already in non-personnel, so the total expansion of the contract would be $30,000, but we only need to move the just under $4,000 out of personnel to be able to add that to the contract also. And that is our one request.
Again, thank you for your explanation. Do I have any comments or questions from the board?
I'm wondering that, does it need for $4,000 come in front of us? I think it should be a minimum that you could just do it.
Yes, it does because it's going from personnel to non-personnel. So
So
anytime,
any amount
any
should do
amount
that.
shifting from a personnel designated use to non-personnel does need to. The other 25,000 approximately that I do have, so some of that is in different buckets, and you're right, that doesn't need to, for those little amounts to move from, my $1,000 extra in supplies and, my $500 extra in
Well, then maybe we have to change the rule and make some minimum at that, 10,000, 20,000, something that you could have. I do not know what is the process, but it's not worth the trouble you guys have to go through, just saying it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Somewhere
through
to
that.
do efficiency.
We'll need to change the land use article. Yeah, thank you for your comment. We would like to make things as more efficient as possible. So do I have a motion for approval of the requested Commissioner's Office budget transfer of it's $3,929.69 from personnel to non-personnel?
Yes, I propose that we approve the budget transfer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. That's 5-0. We have one more item to go over tonight, this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matthew Mills from the General Counsel's Office, and while by definition there's no such thing as a land use emergency, we inadvertently left a resolution off of the agenda for today. It has been distributed to the board. It's MCPB number 25-038, Forest Conservation Plan F20250480, Chaberton Solar Ramir, and the date of the hearing was April the 24th. We're asking you to adopt that today. One correction in the last whereas clause on page 1, the vote is incorrectly listed. There were 3 in favor. The chair, Commissioners Hedrick and Linden, Commissioner Bartley voted against, and the vice chair abstained. So we will correct that in the final version that gets certified, but I wanted to state that on the record.
I believe the second was Commissioner.
Thank you so much. Do I, any comments or questions? All right, so do I have a motion to approve Resolution 25-038, the Forest Conservation Plan? It was F 2025-0480, that it's been amended by what Attorney Mills said regarding the approved votes were, the voting were, it wasn't 5-0, it was 3-1-1.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion for approval of that motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the resolution with those corrections.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it, 5-0, and this ends our planning board meeting.
Not 5-0, I abstained.
On this-
I
well, I mean-
continue to abstain.
Well, we amended.
It's the resolution.
You're approving the resolution that 3-1-1.
So all it is affirming
Okay.
your vote.
Okay, I approve.
It is your prerogative, Madam Vice Chair, but we.
No,
will-
I didn't get it. I thought that you approve it again, and I
Yes.
said no.
No,
Okay.
it is just the ministerial approving of the resolution, so.
Oh, the second one.
All right,
Okay,
so we
got it.
had Commissioner Hedrick made the motion, Commissioner Linden seconded, and 5-0.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just for my clarification and understanding, our vote at the hearing is not changed by the approval of the resolution.
Correct.
Correct.
It is this adopting the resolution is a ministerial act. It does
Right.
not change the substantive underlying vote at the hearing. That is
Thank you.
correct.
Right, it just records what we did at the planning board meeting. So
Thank you.
we're all good here. So thank you so much. This ends our planning board meeting for today, May 8th. Thank you. Have a great day.